is understanding what type of father are we going to deliver to our children, because we don't want to be that type of father that gives our children any old father, because if we give our children any old father, the chances of them becoming any old adult are great, and we don't want them to become any old adult, right? We want them to be the adults that are successful, and the way that they can become adults that are successful is if we have a focused energy on them. But we first got to start with us. What we will understand is that this parenting piece, it starts with us and it ends with us. So I'm so excited to get into it. So when we are looking at what type of father that we want to be, how many people really took the time to really think about what type of father that they are delivering to their children? If you are like me, I know that when I had my first son at 19 years old, I was just saying, man, you know what? Hey, I'm just about to go ahead and do what I got to do. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that he has clothes on his back, food in his belly. You know, I just did the best that I could do with the information that I had, but I didn't really account for the energy and the mind that it takes to really develop a child, and what type of father am I going to be when I'm interacting with my child. This is how we will give our children the best us that we can possibly give them, right? So now, with that being said, let's get into it. How do I determine what type of father that I'm going to deliver to my children? Good. I'm glad that you asked, right? The first thing that I want to do is I want to reflect. What does reflection mean? That means that I want to reflect into my past. I want to see how I interacted with my parents. What am I looking for? I am looking for the positive interactions that I've had with my parents, so then I can then in turn duplicate those positive interactions. Why is that so important? Because if it's already right, then guess what? We don't need to fix it. We can just do the exact same thing that our parents did with us, with our children. Because what are we trying to do? We are trying to establish a strong, positive relationship. And the way that we establish a strong, positive relationship is to ensure that it is positive feelings that are going on the inside of our children. Positive feelings produces a positive relationship. So we want to be intentional about what we are doing. Right? So what does that look like? So when I think about back in my past, some of the positive interactions that I've had with my parents, with my father, I remember that he used to come up to the school and he used to drop jelly donuts off at the school. And I would be like, man, okay, that's good stuff. Powdered jelly donuts from my favorite bakery. I used to be like, yeah, man, my father, he just dropped off jelly donuts at the school for me. It made me feel special. It made me feel like I was about something. Just the way that he interacted with me. That was a positive interaction that I had with my father, right? So another thing that my father would do, he would come outside and he would be the all-time quarterback with my friends, right? Me and my friends. And I would be excited about that because he made himself accessible to me and my friends. That was exciting times for me. Now, I would have 3 people that would be on me, and those 3 people, 4 people that would be on me, he would still fit the ball into me regardless. And I know that some of my friends used to be like, man, dang, I'm open too. I mean, he got 4 people on him, but they were still excited about him coming out there and, you know, playing with us. So it just produced some positive feelings inside of me when my father would come outside and make himself accessible with me and my friends. Just good stuff, just good sound stuff. Those were positive interactions that I had with my father. Why is that important? So now when you fast forward to today's time and me being the father that I am, I just have duplicated those same positive interactions. So when I can remember back in like 2nd grade, when my son was in the 2nd grade, I say, man, you know what? I'm gonna come up to the school and I'm gonna sit down and have pizza with you. Instead of bringing jelly donuts, I'm going to bring the pizza to you, right? And we're going to sit down in the cafeteria and we are going to have lunch. And he would be excited about that because he would be like, man, dang, man, my dad is up here in the school having pizza with me. It was producing those positive feelings inside of him. What are we trying to do? Our main focus is establishing a strong positive relationship. So now by me coming up to the school and sitting down having pizza with him for lunch, I'm doing it in the same vein that my father did it in when he was back in my era, when I was coming up as a kid, when he would drop the jelly donuts off with me. You see what I've done? I just duplicated that positive. I'm giving my son the same positive that I had gotten when I was a child, right? Because I know it to be right. And if I do that which is right, then that's how we make the situation great with our children and the relationship strong, right? So now, after I would go in there and I would have lunch with them, sit down and eat pizza and things like that with them, I would go outside and I said, man, you know what? Hey, let's go ahead and I'm gonna go outside and on the playground and have recess. And I would allow his friends to chase me on the playground, and the whole school, his whole grade was just chasing me, and I'm running. I'm talking about, I'm like a 4.240. Well, I might not be a 4.240, but I was pretty fast, right? And I'm running, and then the kids ended up catching up to me, and they were telling me, I told them that I was super dad. And I'm like, I'm super dad. So then they was chasing me, and they were like, man, I'm going to get you one way or another, super dad. And I said, man, you won't get me. And guess what? They got me. They dragged me to the ground. They were so excited about having an adult play with them. Guess what? The same way that I was excited, the same way that my friends were excited about my father playing with us, is the same way that my son was excited about me playing with him, and his friends excited about me playing with them, right? So what are we doing? We just duplicating the positive. I can think of countless times that I have made myself accessible to my children's friends. I'm out on the playground with my daughter, and she said, Dad, man, I want you to be the lava monster. And I said, man, okay, I'm gonna be the lava monster. So now I'm literally running across the playground. I'm the lava monster. And she don't even know some of the friends that she's out there with, but they are just so excited about me being the lava monster and chasing them around that they looking for her now. They like, man, hey, where you at? Where your dad at? Because he's the lava monster. That produces that positive feeling inside of our children that we need to establish the strong positive relationship. Only thing that I'm doing is duplicating the positive, right? It was done for me when I was a child, and now I'm doing it now as a parent. So when somebody tells me, when somebody asks me and says that, you know what type of father do you want to be? I'm going to start it off with that. I'm going to say, man, I want to be that father that is accessible to his children. I want to be that father that pops up to the school and brings pizza and things like that to the school. Why do I do that? I do that because I had a father that did that with me. So now our main objective in doing our reflection is saying that, man, I want to go ahead and I want to look at all of the positive things that happened when I was a child, and I just want to duplicate that positive, right? So now after you get that tied down, and one thing that I would encourage everybody to do is write that down, because it's something that happens. There's a certain level of energy that it takes to write it down. First you think about it, and then you write it down, and then you go ahead and commit to the act. But it's just something that happens when you just write it down. It's just an energy that happens when you do that. So I encourage everybody to just take the time to write it down. And when you put this type of energy, this type of time into trying to figure out what type of father that you are going to be to your children, it will read into the actual relationship of you and your children, because this is work and it takes time to do this, and that energy will be felt with you and your children, right? So now that we've got the positive out the way, what's the next thing? Okay, I'm glad that you asked, right? So now the next thing is that we are going to identify the negative. What are the negative interactions that we had when we were children? And then once we identify those negative interactions that we had when we were children with our parents, what we must do now is resist it. Why is that so important? If I don't identify those negative interactions, then what will happen? It is likely that I will unconsciously duplicate those negative interactions. That means that if it was negative for me when I was a child, that will surface in my parenting.